All right, man, peace. So when we left off at part 1, Mr. Allen Iverson was going over the series of bad decisions that he made when he was a younger man and how fortunate he is to be in the condition that he is right now to be relatively functional. So we're going to pick up where we left off and let's see what he has to say.
Just trying to do the right thing, thinking before I made decisions instead of just reacting. Just trying my hardest to keep great company around me, and just learn.
Brothers, let me say something very quickly that's very important. And like I always state when I make these videos, I don't make videos to tell cats what to do. Because I'm not perfect, I make mistakes every day. But I do make videos to state my perspective. Because I see a lot of things that occur in the so-called black community, particularly in regards to the so-called black man, when he makes bad decisions, and not always because he has a bad decision-making process, it's because he's never been taught anything. And so many so-called black men have never been taught anything. Why is that? Because their father, whoever that person was, did not have a plan for his son or for his sons. That's why I always implore brothers to make sure that when you lay down with a woman and you decide that you're going to inseminate her and bring forth another child into the world, you should have scrutinized that woman very sharply. Be as meticulous as possible. And before that, be as meticulous as possible in scrutinizing yourself. Because a lot of cats are not ready to have a child. A lot of cats may never be ready to have a child, especially in this society, this cesspool that we're living in today. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you decide, if you look around and you say, you know what, I don't want to bring a son or a daughter into this shithole. If that's what you decide, then that's you. Don't feel pressured by the conventions of society to have a child. Many of these lonely liberal females are upset because they cannot find men to conform to their bullshit. So they try to demonize the men around them, whether it's in the workplace or just in their everyday comings and goings. They're upset because there are many men in this society now who no longer want to have a child for whatever reason. That's their personal business. And they try to afflict them verbally. Oh, what's wrong with you? What, no woman is good enough for you, or are you gay, or different things like that. That is just an attempt to get you to corrupt your decision-making process. You must always do what's best for you, and you have to be a three-dimensional thinker, because in general, the female is not. In general, they're not. Are there exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. That's why you have to scrutinize. And as Mr. Iverson said here, one of the ways that he changed his life is by changing the people that he associates with. I tell cats this all the time. Don't be scared of being an isolationist for a certain period in your life when you're trying to get your shit together. The main way that you get your shit together and you change your life is by being by yourself, so that you have an opportunity to concentrate on what it is that you want to accomplish. You set goals for yourself and you go about trying to actionize those goals. And the best way for you to do that is for you to be by yourself, because the woman takes up a lot of your time. And once you get the ball rolling on those things, then yeah, you can get you a little shorty or a little shorty or two or three or four, who knows? Or you may just meet that special one where you don't need another one. It's up to you. But you have to understand that the power to change your life is in your hands. It's not in anybody else's hands. When so-called black men complain about their life, they're really complaining about their own inability to be willing to change their own fortune. No one else is going to change your life but you. Period. So, once Mr. Iverson decided that he was going to start living for himself as opposed to trying to uphold an image, which is mostly what the building up of an entourage is all about, his life started to get a little better. And you can see that. Hopefully, he'll decide to lessen up on the alcohol, and hopefully for him, he'll put down the weed if he has not done so already.
Just learning from my mistakes. I don't feel like a mistake is a mistake unless you make it twice.
Well, let me ask
question.
you this. Yes, we're going to take a break.
Yeah, we'll take a break after you go, Stephen.
Go ahead, Molly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't need to. Let's go to break now.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I seeing your legacy play out there every night, and I heard what you said about building the court for the Boys and Girls Club, all that. Kudos to you. All great work.
Okay, so now we're back with Mr. Allen Iverson, and he's going to give us some of his prognostications, some of his observations, and his opinions on the current state of the NBA playoffs.
Well, thanks. That one got physical. Ugly game for the Thunder last night as they've now lost 3 straight to the Jazz. Allen Iverson still here with us. Hey, I'll start with you on this one. What's wrong with the Thunder right now?
Plan.
Very hard for Allen Iverson to be able to discern or decipher what's wrong with the Oklahoma City Thunder because he played in a very similar style as the OKC Thunder. So how could he deduce something from their style of play that he himself participated in? And as you guys know by now, just by listening to the question, this interview took place during the Utah Jazz Oklahoma City Thunder series.
Playing against a good team, obviously. I think Utah got the momentum. And just OKC not playing well.
Now listen to AI's answer. He's flummoxed at the question. Why is that? Because once again, he played in the same style as the Oklahoma City Thunder are playing in. And that's the difference between a great player and a player who plays great. And I've touched on this notion in the past in regards to Russell Westbrook. This is why I call him the new Allen Iverson. What a great player will do is he will be able to understand why he is not playing well and why his team is not playing well. What a player who plays great will do is he will say, we just have to play harder. They don't know how to adjust. They don't know how to adapt. And that is why they don't win the big one.
You know what I mean? And Utah's hungry.
You see what he said? They're hungry. In other words, they're playing harder. They just want it more. And that's not really what winning is about. When you get to the elite level, it's about the X's and O's. It's about your willingness to study and practice and pay attention to game tape, film, and the scouting report, as well as execution in the clutch moments. And that is not what Allen Iverson was about. He was about going one-on-one, and oftentimes, yes, he was great in the clutch personally, but he was not willing to invest in the idiosyncrasies of the game. That is why he was never able to win the big one.
Right now, people are looking at Russell Westbrook, and I'm going to tell you what I had a problem with this morning. I know he's one of your favorite players. Steph Curry's the other, no question. They're looking at Russell Westbrook. They saw what he said about Rubio, how he was going to shut that bleak down next time, whatever the case may be. Came out there emotional. He's fire and fury, comes at you 100 miles per hour, so automatically he draws comparisons to how AI played. The difference is that I thought he let his emotions get the better of him to the detriment of the team, which is something I didn't see you do. You try to attack and score and do what you do.
More BS mythologizing. Russell Westbrook has been far more successful in his career than Allen Iverson ever was, and I'm sure that many people will say yes because he had Kevin Durant. Well, if I were to give Kevin Durant 55% of the credit for the OKC Thunder success, I would have to give 45% to Russell Westbrook, at the very least since the 2012-2013 season, which is the first season that they were without James Harden. Russell Westbrook was almost as responsible for their success as Kevin Durant. Now, the reason why they were never able to win the big one is because they only played street ball. They never ran a real system. But when we're going to compare Allen Iverson and Russell Westbrook in regards to success, and for Stephen A. Smith to say that Allen Iverson never let his emotions get the better of him, Iverson was known as one of the most tempestuous players of the early 2000s, as well as Rasheed Wallace, Ron Artest, players of that ilk. But Iverson was the most talented in regards to those three players overall. But he wasn't the best player. I would say that the best overall player was Rasheed Wallace out of those three. He was the one who had the best brain for basketball, which made it so unfortunate when he basically gave the 2005 finals away by forgetting to cover Robert Horry. But that's a whole other issue. Point being is that Stephen A. Smith is heavily involved in the development and the maintenance of the Allen Iverson cult of worship. And in order to keep a cult alive, you have to lie to yourself and lie to everybody else.
But this brother looked like he was ready to get in about 3 fights last night. How are you feeling about what you're seeing from Russell Westbrook mentally at this moment?
I really don't think things like that bother us, honestly. He's not playing as well as he would want to, but that's Russell Westbrook. Obviously he's going to go in his bag and come out with something. You know what I mean? And I do believe in him turning his game around. But it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be rough back in OKC, and it's going to be a war. It definitely was chippy last game. I just hope it don't get out of control.
Hold on for 1 second, Max, because I got to transition to Carmelo Anthony. You believe in Russ. What about Carmelo Anthony? I'm saying this. I'll say this. what I'm seeing from Carmelo Anthony, I never thought I'd see in my life.
I have no idea why. It's the same shit that you saw in his last 3 to 4 years with the New York Knicks. He had a great season in 2012, 2013, and he's been declining incrementally since then. Look, this is why I have a hard time taking anything that many of these television NBA pundits or anything that television media personalities say seriously anyway. I mean, I have a very difficult time taking what they say seriously because they have these relationships with these personages, whether it be athletes or politicians or notable figures, and they try to hide a lot of the more unsavory aspects of reality, which is that Carmelo Anthony has been declining. He was never a dynamic player to begin with. He was never a good defensive player. He was not a good rebounder. He was not a good passer. What he was a player who could score in a half-court set. That's what he was. That is declining. He's no longer explosive. He doesn't finish well. He doesn't have a good left hand. He can still beat players off the dribble if he's being guarded by a 4. But once he blows past them, he has to regather, and he always gets his shot blocked because he has to regather. His coordination is off now. He's just not the same player that he was 5 or 6 years ago, and he was never great to begin with.
All I'm seeing are jump shots. He's not attacking the basket.
And once again, Phil Jackson has been redeemed because he was right about Melo.
There's no level of aggression or urgency. His mind doesn't seem there. You've been friends with him for years. You're his former teammate in Denver. You've known him since he's come into the league. You see what you're seeing. What is up with him?
It's very obvious what's up with Carmelo Anthony. He's dealing with a very bruised ego. Melo has spent the last 15 years in the NBA believing for some strange reason that he was peers with LeBron for a reason other than the fact that they came into the league in the same year. That's about all that they've had in common. LeBron has always been at least one layer above Melo. He will always be at least one layer above Melo, if not multiple layers above Melo. I'm talking about in regards to this era. And the fact that Carmelo thought that he was going to come to the Oklahoma City Thunder and fill the void that was left by Kevin Durant and average 30 points a game and shoot 50% is now dawning on him that no, he is not viewed by the NBA cognoscenti in the same way that they view Kevin Durant, because he's never been the player that Kevin Durant was. Kevin Durant spent 8-9 years with Russell Westbrook playing basically street ball and had multiple seasons shooting over 50%. Carmelo Anthony has never once in his career shot 50%. Never once. He's just not that player, and he was so delusional, he thought that he was going to fill that void, and when he was confronted with reality, which is that he's really not even an NBA starter on a good team, he couldn't handle it. Now he's complaining about coming off the bench next season. Well, you're going to have to come off the bench, bro, because you can't guard your lunch. You're not quick enough to guard threes. You're not strong enough or big enough to guard fours. If you think that you're going to be starting on a team that has a viable chance for an NBA championship, you're fooling yourself.
I love Melo. You know what I mean? He just he's struggling right now. But I think mentally Melo is a fighter. You know what I mean? And I know he's gonna figure out a way. You know what I mean? You don't have that much talent and believe.
You see that? He always has to regather. He can beat his man off the dribble to the basket, but he always regathers. He never finishes smooth at the cup. It's not even just the fact that he has no explosiveness. He's totally disjointed after he beats his man to the basket. Why is that? Because he's not comfortable finishing with his left hand.
Believe in yourself and not be able to find a way. So I just think he needs to keep pushing forward, keep his foot on the pedal, and try as hard as he can. As long as he's playing every game like it's his last, no one can talk crazy about him, because he's giving the effort.
But do you think you're seeing that, Ryan, that he's playing every game like it's his last?
He's playing every game like it's his last, literally, because he has no more game left. It's not like he's not giving effort. He just can't play anymore. He's a dinosaur, Stephen A. Smith. The type of game, the style of play that Carmelo Anthony brings to the floor is more conducive to 2005, 2006, 2007, not 2018, where you hold the basketball for about 2 seconds at the most and you do something with it. If you have the basketball in your hands for longer than a second and a half and you're not moving, you don't know what to do. You need to pass the ball. Period.
I definitely believe that. I never noticed Melo taking the game off. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put that on him. I believe in Melo.
He keeps saying like this, it could be his last. AI, isn't that part of the problem, though? The ego of a Hall of Fame player and a great scorer. If Gobert allows them to play honest, to free up resources to play defense, and they're contesting every shot, aren't you supposed to counteract that with ball movement instead of trying to, Westbrook, he's just built that way.
Well, Max Kellerman, if they've been playing the same way the whole season, now all of a sudden you want them to play like the Golden State Warriors? Hello? You're a boxing man, right? If you were calling a George Foreman fight back in the 1970s and all of a sudden he tried to box like he was Pernell Whitaker, you say, what the hell is George Foreman doing? He's not doing what got him there. The OKC Thunder, they were doing what got them there. And it's also what got them eliminated, because when you face higher level competition, that one-on-one bullshit is not going to work.
He wants to be the hero. Carmelo wants to be the hero. Shouldn't they move the ball? And isn't the ego a problem here?
You're asking Allen Iverson about moving a basketball. Okay.
I really don't think so.
Of course he doesn't think so. He played in the same style 12, 13 years ago. You're asking the wrong person about in-game adjustments in regards to moving the basketball, Max Kellerman. I have no idea why you would ask Allen Iverson about moving the ball.
I really don't think the ego is a problem. Those guys know they got to do it collectively. Like I said, they're just not playing well. You know what I mean?
They just have a bad mix. Similar to the mix that you and Melo had in Denver back in 2008. They brought in Chauncey Billups. All of a sudden, they went to the Western Conference Finals in 2009.
In the beginning of the season, everybody talked bad about pairing those guys up. I saw greatness. You know what I mean? I would love to play with two other guys with that skill level. You know what I mean? I just feel like somehow, some way, they got to put it together and make something happen before they get broken up.
If you get bounced out in the first round by the Utah Jazz, you see Golden State, you see what Houston's doing with CP3 and James Harden, okay? You know that the Lakers got max dollars for two players, not just one. If you're Paul George after this debacle, assuming they lose to Utah in this first round, do you stay and re-up or do you leave?
I think that Paul George is going to leave regardless. I don't see him staying with the OKC Thunder. I think that it's really up to whether or not Paul George wants to play with LeBron James or not. I think that he's going to confer with LeBron in the offseason to see what LeBron wants to do, because I think that it's been a dream of Paul George to play with LeBron. But I definitely believe that he wants to go out to LA because Paul George is very sloppy in regards to his dealings with the women. And as we all know, there are a lot of sloppy broads in certain cities. Houston, LA, Miami, what is sloppy broads everywhere? But LA is one of the headquarters of the sloppy broads, and he wants to head out there.
That's his decision, man. I do what my heart tells me to do. You know what I mean? You have to respect him, whatever he do. You know what I mean? He's a great player. He's only going to get better, and I think he will help any franchise. So
Paul George is a very good player. He's not a great player.
So you just want what's best for PG. That's it.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Max.
How would you just, one of the things I see in Westbrook, AI, is he's so competitive. I've compared him to Clayton Kershaw in baseball, that it actually hurts him sometimes in the playoffs because his instinct is pull harder, right? Well, you are a guy like that, and yet you managed to figure out a way to get an undermanned team, maybe the worst team in terms of talent, to the finals in my lifetime, dragging them there. How do you do that if you're Westbrook? How do you resist the urge just to pull harder and trust your teammates?
Number one, Russell Westbrook has never been the clutch shooter that Allen Iverson was. Up and down as Allen Iverson's jump shot often could be, but once again, that was in a much more physical era. In clutch moments, he was a much better mid-range and long-range clutch jump shooter than Russell Westbrook ever was. All you have to do is watch those 2001 playoffs to see. He made clutch jump shot after clutch jump shot, whether it was against Toronto, Milwaukee, even the Lakers. So it's just a little bit different. Russell Westbrook, he wants to do well, and he wants to do well almost too badly. He does tighten up, and it's because his brain is not configured to account for outside stimuli on a wide scale, on a panoramic scale. He's so focused with that laser vision that he becomes too focused and he starts to get tight. And that happens with players. I remember Chris Webber used to be like that.
I really don't know, because Russ has been in these situations a lot. You know what I mean? He played with Durant. He's played with Harden. He's played with Oladipo. Now Melo and George. I mean, obviously he's supposed to definitely figure it out by now, because he's played with superstars. And I believe in Russ, man. You know what I mean? And that's what make you love Russ. You know what I mean? Just him going a million miles per hour all the time. You know what I mean? You got a guy that's done something that we never thought would ever happen again.
Well, let me say this, AI. You can love a Ferrari too, but that does not mean that the Ferrari is going to be the car that you have for the long haul. There's a reason why you have a family car and you have a sport car. Sport cars for fun, family cars for the long term. Russell Westbrook is not a family car, he's a sports car. You ride him for fun, but after a while you're going to total that and you have to send that back to the shop, and when it's time to settle down, you got to get your ass that station wagon, that minivan. That's what you're going to have for the long term. That's what you can count on. You can't count on the sports car.
And he did it back-to-back seasons. So, you know what I mean? Come on, man.
Well,
any other time he would be the MVP of the league.
Let me
Well, he shouldn't have even been the MVP last season. It should have went to Harden last year.
Let me transition to somebody that's won 4 of them. We're talking about
Between the two of them, I probably would have gave it to KD.
About the great one, LeBron James. Somebody you love as well. You look at LeBron James in the year that he's having. You look at how he's been forced to carry the Cleveland Cavaliers on his back because Kyrie is in Boston now, which, by the way, he can't be completely absolved from, but that's a subject for another day. My question to you is this. Looking at James Harden and what he's been doing this year in Houston, are you siding with people like myself and Kobe, who believe it's James Harden's time, considering the year that he has had and the year that Houston has had, which is similar to what you did in Philadelphia when you won the league MVP in 2001? Or do you look at the greatness of LeBron and say, look, man, you can't deny it, he deserves the MVP? Where are you with this?
I look at it like James is definitely the MVP this year. And that really is
Well, the real MVP is that travel step back 3-point shot that he shoots. That's the real MVP. When he gets the award, he needs to give the award to that step back travel cha-cha-cha move that he does to take that 3-point shot.
a testament of how great James is. You know what I mean? When you got a guy that averaged the triple-double, and then LeBron, you can give the award to LeBron every year. He's in his 15 years getting better and better. So you can always hand the award to LeBron. But James is having a special year. His team is having a great year. And they're doing great things in Houston. But like I said, man, LeBron is LeBron. He's the best player in the world. You know what I mean? And I definitely think he deserves it. And why not? He's playing at the highest level he's probably ever played in.
Right.
So, but I definitely think...
Offensively, I think that LeBron is playing at the highest level that he's probably ever been at the very least since 2013.
He definitely belongs to James.
Well, see, I'm so proud of you. I mean, for once you agree with me. You didn't completely turn on me for James. Finally, you agree with something. And Max Kellerman, you can go ahead now because he just dropped some education on you. He just dropped it on you. Go ahead, Max.
On me. Don't make me ask AI if it's okay to quote rap lyrics when you're talking about basketball or anything for that matter. You roll your eyes every time I do. Hey, AI,
hurry up.
How do you feel about Stephen A. rolling his eyes every time rap lyrics are quoted on a subject? How's that for a question?
From him, not rap lyrics from him.
Oh, it's from him, right?
That's right. I'm saying rap lyrics from him. That's a personal thing.
All right. I didn't think you had a problem with our culture, man.
Not at all. Not at all. Not.
AI got Stephen A. shook. I ain't think you had a problem with our culture, man. Nah, bro. Hip-hop is not a culture. All that is the manifestation. I'm sure a lot of cats will disagree, but no, hip-hop is not a culture. Just like rock and roll wasn't a culture. So-called black people invented that. Jazz is not a culture. So-called black people invented that. That's just a manifestation. It's not a culture.
Not at all. Go ahead, Max.
You mentioned that LeBron is the best player in the game. Obviously, everyone who watches basketball agrees with that. Who is 2, 3, 4, and 5?
You're killing me.
Yup, that's the point.
That's hard.
No, it's not hard, AI. Number one player in the NBA is LeBron. Number 2, I would put Steph, but KD or Steph, they could switch spots. It's so close. I would have Steph too. Why is that? Because KD himself stated that Steph is the most important part of that team. After he struggled in a regular season game, he himself stated that, so I have to put Steph at number 2, KD number 3, a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard at number 4, and number 5, Anthony Davis.
Definitely Durant has to be in there. You got to say James, because he's the MVP at this point.
It's LeBron, it's James Harden, it's Kevin Durant, 2 more.
Man, Russ averages triple-double this year, man.
Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit?
Now, you can...
I might take Donovan Mitchell over Russell Westbrook right now. Now, the real argument is who's better, James Harden or Anthony Davis. That's a great debate. I would take Davis because of what he brings defensively.
I don't know what you want me to say. A guy averages triple-double back to back. So, you got to put him in there.
That's 4. What about 1 more?
I would say Embiid.
Embiid over Anthony Davis?
See, it's hard. That's a hard one. That's real hard, man. You know what I mean? Because Davis.
Well, we know you're a homer, brother. It's okay.
Davis is so great, man, and he can do everything out there on the basketball court. So my whole thing is I'm just being biased, right?
That you are being biased.
But it's a legitimate argument.
I mean, Embiid.
It is a legitimate argument, but Embiid is not on the level of AD quite yet. Not yet.
Embiid's big time, don't get me wrong, but he's a puppy at this game. He just started.
That's all right. He looked like he's been playing it a long time.
Looking
So
like
is this
a
the
vet.
most talented? Is this the most talented
I'm
league's
almost
ever
scared
been?
to
Because a
ask
guy
you
like
about
the
my
Greek
answer.
Freak doesn't crack the top 5, right?
He doesn't deserve to crack the top 5, Max Kellerman. You could argue that the Greek Freak might not even be in the top 10. Especially after I saw in this year's playoffs in the first round. He flamed out in games 5 and 7. So that knocks him down a few notches for me. I had him on the same level as Kyrie in regards to impact, and I have to knock him down a few notches because he did not step up when his team needed him to in the 2 most important games of their season, Game 5 and Game 7. He was not doing what he needed to get done. Now, of course, Game 6, he played very well, but they needed him to have a standout game in Boston, and he was not able to do so. But in regards to Max Kellerman's question about whether or not this is the most talented that the league has ever been, I think that this is the most talented that the NBA has been probably in 30 years. Since around 87, 88, that era where you had Jordan, Bird, Magic, Barkley, Olajuwon, Ewing, all in the league at the same time. Kareem was at the end of his career. Isaiah Thomas was in his prime. Dr. J had just retired in 87. It's probably the most talent that the league has had since then. I mean, of course, in the early 2000s, you had Webber and Garnett and Duncan and Kobe and Ray Allen and Iverson and Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady. But in that era, a lot of the players, to be quite frank with you, they were great individual basketball players, but they did not understand the team game. So that's why I give them demerits.
Right now, there's so many great players in the league. Embiid, the Greek Freak, really not in the top 5.
First of all, you put me on the spot.
Look at Molly's face. Molly's not even listening to what AI is saying. Molly's still thinking back to when she was 15 watching AI play basketball while she was playing with some of her damn self. But anyway.
Spot. It was a bad situation that you put me in because the list can go on and on and on and on. And everybody can be able to debate it, whether it's this person right, that person right.
Well, you gave everybody love. I mean, what I'm saying, I'm not
trying to say you didn't put this one or that one in the top 5. I'm trying to say, is this the most talent the league has ever had? Is this the hardest kind of list to do given the talent in the league?
I think once again that the league is in a great spot right now. They're in a great spot right now. They have great young talent. It's definitely the most talent that the NBA has had in about 30 years, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that way. I mean, we had a league where LeBron, Dwayne Wade in his prime, and Chris Bosh in his prime was on the same team. We had a team where it was Russ and KD and James Harden on the same team. Like, this league is not declining at all. It's getting better and better. It's going to continue to do that.
Guys, let's give AI a little break. Let him off the hot seat for a second.
Yes, let's give AI a little break. and I'm going to break off this video. This will be the end of part 2. But anyway, peace.